Chucky's the TV ad.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Bestiary Boys, where we take deep dives into monster manuals and bestiaries. And Joey, what creature are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about the Centaur.
The Centaur, the classic Centaur. And as usual, let's start with a quote. And it goes like this. Think about it. Why have an ordinary horse when you can have a centaur? They understand what you're saying, so it's easy to give them orders. And they can swing a sword and shoot a bow to fend off robbers. It's perfect! By Gultrube Skakel, a fool. So, I don't know if he was named a fool after saying this, or he's like a court fool, like a court jester. I don't quite know. But I like the ambiguity there. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. It's funny. There's a lot to think about if you were to actually take a centaur as a horse.
Yeah.
Just purely. But let's look at the artwork.
Yeah, let's check out the art.
Why this would be a bad idea.
Yeah. So action pose, first and foremost, which is awesome. We get to see the centaur in battle, racing forward with an arrow nocked and a bow, about ready to take somebody out. He's got his trusty wine horn, which we'll learn about very, very shortly, about their fondness for getting drunk.
Yep.
Armored dust. He's got a crazy long kind of ponytail thing going on. It's like tied up very close to the end of it. But yeah, he looks pissed.
He does look pissed. Can't even see his pupils or nothing. It's just the white of his eyes firing an arrow.
Yeah, totally. And so I think it's appropriate. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I like the armor style. It's pretty cool. It makes sense for a horse person that it's not too... It looks like it shifts while he's probably galloping. Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah, it's a lot of plates that are kind of connected, and it's probably pretty loud. I imagine you're gonna hear this jingles. Guy. Yeah, coming from a long way away, but really cool art, very appropriate art for the description, because we learn there's a little bit of a dispute between the chronicler and her colleague. So, although my colleague Virdal would object vociferously, I believe that centaurs are best described as savage and boisterous nature beings. But he thinks they are noble creatures who personify the task of watching over the world's forests and all that inhabit them. So it sounds like our chronicler has a little bit more of a, well, she's writing this whole thing, I guess. And so she has a stronger perspective that they're characterized by brash, almost cocky attitude. That much is beyond dispute. But they're okay as long as they're drunk on wine or ale or some other kind of beverage, I guess.
Right. Like her colleague clearly ran into like Harry Potter centaurs, and she's out somewhere dealing with World of Warcraft ones. Like it's just same creature, two very different tones.
Yeah, totally. I'd be curious. That's one thing I love about the chronicler and her stories is that it's like world building in itself, because it's giving you insight into not only who she is outside of the information that you're given here, but then anybody else she's working alongside, and how maybe you could then, are you going to take her word for it, or are you going to take Virdal's word for it, right? So it could really influence how you run them at your table. Before we get into all that, let's check out some stat blocks.
Oh yeah. So the centaur has a ferocity of 2, so it gets 2 actions per turn. It's a large creature. I believe it does count as a monster, correct?
Oh, yeah, it's because it got monster attacks.
Monster attacks, yep. It has a movement of 20, which seems, I guess, appropriate. 20 is pretty big. That's 10 squares.
Yeah, I mean, it's got 2 more legs than a human, so I guess it should move at least twice as fast, right?
Yeah, no armor, 28 hit points. These guys have alcohol tolerance, though. Centaurs can drink copious amounts of wine and beer without getting particularly drunk. So I guess it could still happen, but it takes a lot. And then their typical gear is a short spear, a long bow with quiver of arrows. Makes sense.
Alcohol tolerance is kind of funny because it's purely a social ability, which I'm sure people play Dragonbane all kinds of different ways, but I don't think we've ever really been in many situations where all of you guys are hanging out in a tavern and sharing stories and getting drunk and all that. But I don't know.
Right.
I guess maybe it makes sense if you're going to one of these centaur parties and then you know how to run them. But anyway,
true. So here are the monster attacks. For number 1, we got a horse kick. It kicks back an opponent. The attack hurls the victim 2d6 meters and inflicts an equal amount of bludgeoning damage. The victim lays prone. So we've pretty much seen this attack a few times now, just called different things.
Yeah, to be expected,
but we have,
right?
Yeah, definitely. We have a spear thrust. The creature thrusts its short spear at an opponent, inflicting 2d10 piercing damage. The attack can be parried. Good to know. Crushing hooves. This time, the centaur will rear up and strike with its hooves at 2 opponents within 2 meters of each other.
I like that.
Giving them each 2d6 bludgeoning damage.
I love that because I imagine you know, as a party, you're centering around this centaur in melee combat, trying to like hack at it and like maybe, yeah, exactly. And then it just rears up and just comes down with its powerful hooves. But anyway, go ahead.
Quick shot. The centaur uses its longbow and quickly fires an arrow at an opponent within 30 meters, preferably a mage or another archer. That's kind of neat. And then the victim suffers piercing.
Exactly. I like how this thing is run like a monster, but it has weapons like a non-monster, and it absolves you from choosing, right, how it attacks. It's a random. You got the spear and then the arrow too. It's cool.
Yeah, and I like that it goes for a mage or another archer because there is a disadvantage at shooting somebody who's right up close.
Yep.
So even if the centaur makes the quick shot, it's going to shoot at somebody at a decent distance.
Yeah, it's
those mages aren't running up in there.
Exactly. It's evening the playing field in that regard because, you know, you guys know how you guys tend to divide the party depending on combat strategy.
Yeah, I already feel like let's say we ran into 2 of these, we'd have a hard time with them. I really think so. If we have like 4 actions coming against the 4 of us, and they're this strong, I think we'd be. That's what I love about this game. It's like, oh, I want to put 2 centaurs in the combat. You're gonna fucking kill everybody. You don't think you will, but you might. And then, like in one of my personal games, I just for fun, I'm like, screw it. I'll put in a stone giant. I put in some kind of giant. You know what one of its attacks were?
What?
I can't. Where'd they go? My random roll for an attack was, oh, you lost sight of the targets. Now you have to make an awareness check with a bane to see if you can find them again. I'm like, what the fuck? Wait till we get to that one.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
But yeah. I love how deadly this game can be because it doesn't feel deadly until all of a sudden, holy shit. It is like the Will-O-Wisps in Path of Glory.
Yeah. I mean, they were really...
Will-O-Wisps don't look like they'd be that bad, but...
No. Yeah. I mean, those specifically like are really... you have to fight them in certain ways, like with, I think, fire or magical things and stuff. So like if you're shit out of luck if you don't have anything in that regard.
Yep. But going back to monster attacks, sorry for that tangent. Number 5, ramming attack. The creature lunges at an enemy with its full weight. The attack inflicts 2d10 bludgeoning damage and knocks the victim down. So just a big horseman barging into you. Yeah, that's going to hurt. And then last, but certainly not least, mocking laughter. The centaur lets out a burst of deafening and mocking laughter. All enemies within 10 meters must make a will roll to not become angry. Anyone who is already angry suffers another condition.
I like how, it's funny because I think, again, one thing I've noticed, like the pattern is that it's typically, at least for the most part, it seems like weak to strong attack. Yeah. You know, usually number 6 is typically the big attack, and it's funny that it's just he's laughing at you, and you suffer a condition.
Yep.
I guess I'll have to work on my mocking laughter if I ever send one of these guys at you.
Yeah, I think my real mocking laughter, it'd have to be like, let me think. It'd have to be like one of those like posh, pretentious, like one of those kind of laughs. If I wanted to mock,
so it's somebody. It's not really loud. It's just All right.
I just want to laugh like I'm better than everybody.
You want to laugh like you're better.
Yeah. That would be my mocking laugh.
Okay, well, speaking of how we would send these at the players, let's talk about the random encounter. So there are two centaurs, Atos and 18, I think. They suddenly appear before the player characters and demanding to know what business they have in the area. So kind of random, like what the hell are you doing here, man? The centaurs immediately become suspicious if they are told blatant lie or if anyone admits to having goals that could somehow threaten the area's natural environment. So this is interesting because it does feel like it harkens back to Virdal's interpretation of what a centaur is. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of a mix in here. So can the player characters talk their way out of the precarious situation? If not, Atos will likely gallop off for reinforcements. I was hoping this random encounter would have a little bit more meat to it, but here we are. It's pretty much just two centaurs burst out of the brush and say, "What are you doing here?" And if they can talk their way out of the situation, they're good. Otherwise, it's going to turn into a fight, I guess. But like you said, you were thinking, hey, if we sent two centaurs at somebody, that's going to be devastating. So they're going to go get reinforcements. So I guess there is that, I don't know, the opportunity to really make things go south at that point.
Yeah.
And then up to you as far as what happens if they're captured, or I guess they might just be killed. But moving on, the Adventure Seed. So this one is all about, we were joking before we started recording, it feels like an Adam Sandler movie, or like that then segues into The Hangover, the Galifianakis movie, because really, all it is, a wagon load of Centaur's most potent ale has been stolen by some dwarves, and they lost the trail. But can the player characters help the Centaurs track down the dwarves and persuade them to return the barrels while there is still some ale left? This sounds, again, like an SNL kind of thing. But if they are successful, they're invited to a lavish party. And there's going to be tons of forest creatures there. They're going to get drunk off their ass. But then the catch is, like I said earlier, they wake up and they don't really remember much of what happened. But they have made new friends in the forest, friends who could prove invaluable in the future. So I kind of like that because it kind of absolves the long social encounter. You know, the GM doesn't have to like, oh shit, I got to play a bunch of forest creatures. And how long is the social encounter going to be? You can basically just like exposition the whole thing, and then you don't really remember what happened. So you don't have to see it play out. But then it's cool because then you have these forest friends who could be your allies, and you don't really, they'll know you, but you might be fuzzy on who they are. And so there's lots of, I think comedic probably opportunities there to what happened at the party kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, these encounters, they're fine. I feel like thematically they fit with the Centaur as Free League is depicting it. But how about you? Any ideas how you might run a Centaur at your table?
Just from listening to you describe those encounters, I think for this episode, I'm going to tell you how I would turn both of these into one and like what I would add to juice it up a little bit.
Nice.
So
I like it.
I would start the adventure where you still run into Atos and the other one that I can't pronounce, right? Mm-hmm. When they go get reinforcements, and also have them be on the lookout for the dwarves. So already plant the seed that some dwarves have taken our ale. Do you know any dwarves? You know, that kind of thing. And we're like, no, we don't know any dwarves. Maybe you're lying. So then they get captured by the Centaur, because if they try to fight the Centaur, they're fucked. Like if they try to fight, let one of them get down to 0 hit points and, you know, find out that day. Then the Centaur are like, well, we want to believe, because in reality, they don't know anything about anything. They're not associated with the dwarves. And so then the Centaur are like, well, if you want us to honor your word, you have to prove you're honorable, and you have to kill the biggest thing you can find. And that's going to feed into their like savagery a little bit. They seem like they'd be the type of hunters that go for like a big kill to gain rep in their camps. So now the Centaurs have given them that task. While the party is going out doing that, they find the dwarves just by chance, and they have the barrels of ale or wine or whatever it is. So when they talk to the dwarves will be like, well, this giant started fucking sleeping around at our mining camp up the mountain here, and we're going to try to bring him this ale to appease him and get him really drunk so we can kill him. And they're like, oh, okay, so then the party can help the dwarves, use the ale for that purpose, kill the big thing, bring back the body of the giant to the centaurs to prove that they're honorable, and also explain the dwarves situation. Or maybe the party can figure out a way to kill the giant without using the ale. So that way the dwarves will be happy, the centaur get their wine back, and you're honorable as hell because you killed a giant. I don't know, it just seems like that would be a fun adventure.
No, it sounds cool. My favorite part is the giant who sleeps around.
Yeah. He's sleeping around the camp.
Yeah.
He's a lot lizard.
Yeah, he's
in the camp.
He's a player giant, it sounds like.
Yeah,
causing all kinds of problems.
When I meant he's just
no, I know, I know, but when I heard sleeping around, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, this giant, like, what's going on, man? This is getting crazy. So hey, you guys out there, you can take that adventure any way you want.
Yeah.
Depending on
what other adventure would have a giant prostitute around a dwarf camp?
Yeah,
you find me that adventure.
Yeah, the promiscuous giant. It is titled.
We could use Captain Flender's troll art instead.
Totally. All right, well, cool. Moving on, we got one piece of artwork, which is really cool. It's another miniature painting from Theraplug on the Discord server. Come hang out with us. Link down below. But why don't you take us through this fantastic painting, or paint job, I should say, that Theraplug sent us.
Yeah. Incredible artwork again, Theraplug. The miniature, this is an official one from, is it, what's it, something Forge?
I don't remember.
I can't remember the company name, but it was a Kickstarter very recently. Theraplug has been sending us pictures now of the miniatures that come from that Kickstarter, this being, of course, the Centaur. I like this Centaur better than the official artwork one. He's just in a more action pose. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like the less armor more than a bunch of armor.
Yeah, totally.
I like the less armor look to him.
Yeah, and something about Centaurs just make me feel like, I mean, I guess they could definitely wear armor, but I don't know, they're so barbaric looking, where I almost picture more of like a, armorless kind of just wild man or wild lady centaur,
It makes you think nomadic, which means the less heavy equipment we have, the better for our lifestyle,
Exactly. And granted, I mean, the armor in the artwork it's not super heavy, and it's not like a warhorse armor or anything like that. But yeah.
But maybe, maybe that centaur, I mean, of course we're overanalyzing this, but that's the fun of this.
That's the point.
Centaur miniature we're looking at. That's an everyman centaur. He's a hunter, he's a fisher. Then the one that we saw the official artwork, that's at a time of war, so he does wear armor because he's fighting against ogres or something, where he wants the extra protection. So we just have two different lifestyles happening.
Well, you also you almost, it's the duality of the description, right? We have some people think, hey, these centaurs are all assholes, they're just drunk. That's the only time they're nice is when they're drinking. And then somebody else is like, oh, they're a majestic forest guardian. So that again, I think that's my favorite part about this entire listing, is that through this disagreement that the chronicler has with her colleague, it allows you to not just feel pigeonholed into how to run a centaur in Dragonbane. Because I feel like, I mean, you could even make more factions that way. Maybe there's, a rowdy bunch of drunk centaurs, and then there's like the forest folk who it's important for them to keep everything safe. And I don't know, lots of opportunities. I'm glad that they gave us the flexibility here. Not that you can do it on your own anyway, but it's just, I like all these little seeds, these little nuggets that they give you to really just kind of think about how you might run a centaur. Cool. Well, thanks, Theraplug. Looking forward to more of your paints. And like I said, all of his stuff, he's posting it on a Discord server in the Arts and Crafts section or the Bestiary Boys channel. So come check it out. But I think that concludes Centaurs. And like you said last time, this is kind of turned into our favorite, depiction of centaurs, or
Right. Yeah, the very last closing statements.
Do you have any cool centaurs?
Look up some of the centaur miniatures for like Warhammer. Those are some of the baddest looking centaur ever. Like I saw one at my local game store that I wanted. It's like a $70 miniature, right? Because it's fucking Warhammer. But it looked so cool. It was like a death gladiator centaur. And I'm like, oh man, if I'm going to kill people with a centaur, it's going to be this one. But in media, I guess, I really you don't see them much.
You don't. I was really racking my brain. And the one that came to mind was, you remember that old show with Kevin Sorbo, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys?
Mm-hmm.
There was a centaur in that, or centaurs in there. And that, I don't know, it's funny because, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't really think about them much. And then I watched that when I was a kid and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's the only centaur I can think of. But for me also, I think this is a little bit of a cheat, though, because technically not a centaur, but in AD&D 2nd edition, one of my favorite campaign settings, Planescape, there is a player race you could play called a warrior, and they're basically a ram. So it's just like a centaur, but with a ram.
But a
so
ram.
You have these awesome, curling horns and kind of again, the way Tony Dieter-Lizzi, who was a fantastic artist, he art directed the entire Planescape stuff. He depicted them. One thing I loved about it, which really isn't necessarily in the artwork for the centaur here, but the warriors and that had kind of like this more animalistic face. Mm-hmm. Like their brows kind of like really connected with their noses. And I know part of that is stylistically what he was into, but I really liked it's not just like a human torso on a horse, but it had some blends of animalistic, even outside of the horns, right? There's some facial features, and I think the ears even were more like a ram. But that's always been my favorite I mean, granted, I know it's not a centaur, but I love that it's kind of a riff on a centaur, and it was cool.
Well, in that case, like the way you just described how like that creature looked more beast than man, even though it's clearly half of both. The centaurs from Chronicles of Narnia, the films, when those came out, they look really good. Like they also have like, more horse-like ears and stuff like that. And their faces are rough looking, kind of like not as bad as Warriors of Virtue, which was a kung fu movie that had like kangaroo kung fu martial artists. But that was like, those were like they're man, half kangaroo, but they looked more, it was like Tank Girl. Tank Girl's nightmare fuel when you're a kid. If you look at that, the kangaroos from that. Wow, there's Warriors of Virtue and Tank Girl. I could think of 2 movies that have kangaroo people, but I can only really think of one that had prominent centaurs. That's weird.
That's weird. That's really weird. And I forgot to mention this at the very beginning, but if you guys would like us to dive into a different creature from a different bestiary, we're happy to kind of edit those in periodically as we make our way through this one. I know some of you guys out there have suggested certain bestiaries. Not specific monsters, because I think we don't want to like segue completely into a new book just yet.
Right.
But we want to kind of like for instance, if we had like 3 or 4 different bestiaries we're kind of like rotating through or between, that would be cool. So let us know in the comments if that's something you guys would be into. And anything else about centaurs, or should we talk about what we're talking about next week?
Let's talk about next week.
Let's do it. What is it going to be?
Next week, it is Chaos Demons.
Oh, man, we're back in the demons. Nice.
Yeah.
We did Blood Demon already. Now we're in Chaos Demon. That's what they sound like. That's what they sound like. That's exactly what they sound like. So that is a little teaser for next week.
That hurt my throat.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for watching and hanging out with us. And we will see you guys next week with Chaos Demon.